Margaritaville at Sea is adding a third ship to their fleet. Just last year in 2025, Margaritaville at Sea added a second ship to their fleet, being the highly successful so far Margaritaville at Sea Islander. In comparison to her fleet mate, the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise, Islander seems to be doing very well, although there are some mixed reviews with the Paradise. But, of course, Margaritaville is starting to gain traction now that they have brought Islander into the fleet, now that she is doing quite well for herself in the port of Tampa. But aside from Margaritaville, Costa Cruises is downsizing their fleet, and they did recently announce just last week that they were going to be selling off the Costa Fortuna, built back in 2003. And you could probably see where I'm going with this, as, of course, just this morning we got the big announcement of Margaritaville at Sea will be adding the Costa Fortuna to their fleet as their biggest and largest and first ship over 100,000 tons. But before we go too far into things, of course, let's go over just some of the details and what we know about the Costa Fortuna, as she is a Destiny-class ship from Carnival, if you're familiar with Carnival, the Destiny-class ship. So very similar to the Destiny Triumph Victory and what we now know as the Sunshine ships, Sunshine, Sunrise, and Radiance. But the Fortuna sits at 102,000 tons, or just north of there, with a length of about just shy of 900 feet. As far as passenger capacity, we're looking at a dual occupancy of about 2,700 passengers, or just above that, and then a maximum capacity of 3,470 or 3,470 passengers. So a pretty decent sized ship when you're looking at the comparisons of the Islander and the Paradise. Islander is, of course, a modified Spirit class ship. And to go along with those 3,400 guests, or I guess just shy of 3,500, we're looking at about 1,100 crew members on board, at least for Costa. Who knows? That is always subject to change, of course, with the new cruise line and under new management here with Margaritaville at Sea. But so with that kind of out of the way, of course, there is the trend that can be looked at here saying that Margaritaville likes to purchase all of the previous and old Costa ships, because of course even the Paradise was the original Costa Classica way back in the day. One of the oldest ships in the Caribbean, actually. I think even is the actual oldest. But of course the Islander was originally the Costa Atlantica, and now we're looking at the Costa Fortuna with this third ship. Will that continue to be a trend in the future? I don't know. I think, it's possible that they could even purchase a Carnival ship, an actual Carnival ship, rather than Costa ships in the near future or in the future down the road. Not really saying that there's any Carnival ships up for sale or up for grabs right now, but just kind of a thought in my head as I continue my ramble here. So when can we expect this new ship with the Margaritaville at Sea, at this point, Fortuna? Probably not going to be the name. But when can we expect this? So my best guess would probably be either the fall or the winter season of 2026, so late next year, as she's actually set to transfer out of the Costa Cruises fleet in September of 2026. So we're probably going to see this ship probably at the earliest, maybe December, as I would imagine this is going to take at least 2 months to convert her over into Margaritaville at Sea. Probably longer, I would say 2 to 3 months is probably the transition period, just because I do think Margaritaville does need to give a lot of love and attention to the ship, as she is over 20 years old technically on paper here. Although they did a very good job when it came to converting the Costa Atlantica over into the Margaritaville at Sea Islander, it was kind of a different story with the Costa Magika whenever she was taken over to, I believe it's Sea Jets, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. It was a Greek ship-owning company that purchased the Costa Magika, and of course she has been riddled with issues and has been laid up because she is in such poor condition. But I don't think that's going to be the case here with Costa Fortuna, her sister ship, or sister ship to the Magika. I do think that Margaritaville at Sea is set to do great things with this ship. And of course, the more that they have to work with here with the bigger ship, the better, as they definitely proved that is the case here with the Islander, with their steps from the Paradise to the Islander. I think with basically double the size, they were able to do so much and so much better with what they have with the Islanders. So I can only imagine what they're going to do with the Fortuna. Another big question, of course, to be asked here is, where's this thing going to go? Well, it really could depend. There's a whole variety of things. And of course, this was announced that they are going to announce it as a later date. So we can only speculate at the moment. But as of right now, at least my personal best guess is I think the ship would do best here in Florida. I don't know where exactly. And I have heard there are rumblings of potentially Mobile or even New Orleans. I think Margaritaville in New Orleans sounds like a great combo, just like Tampa and Margaritaville sounds like a great combo, and it has been. So New Orleans, I think, would be really, really cool. But I have heard some rumblings that Mobile, Alabama is a potential for this new ship here. I do think New Orleans and Mobile both do have pretty good mix when it comes to Margaritaville, or at least the vibe of Margaritaville with that tropical, flip-flop paradise type of vibe that Margaritaville always gives off. So I do think those are two potential options, as of course I have heard those rumored in the past as well as areas that they've looked into. But me personally, I do think the ship would do best here in Florida, as most new cruise ships do. And I think for a new cruise line or a newer cruise line that's continuing to gain traction, I think Florida is their safest bet. So not really sure where here in Florida, as they can't replace the Paradise, of course, in West Palm Beach, because that's already basically almost too big for West Palm Beach in itself, and she's significantly larger than the Paradise. Tampa, I don't think it'll fit. They may be able to do some modifying to the funnel to where it could fit under the bridge, but probably not the case, as they already have the Islander there, of course. And kind of a side note here, I do think the Fortuna is, of course, going to offer a great entry for them into the 7-day cruise market, as I think this would be a great ship for them to offer 7-day cruises for the very first time. Of course, there are one-off sailings, of course, with the Islander that they are about to offer. But overall, I think the Fortuna is their best bet for a consistent 7-day itinerary. I don't think they'll be able to offer that out of Tampa, of course, just due to size. Port Canaveral's a good choice, probably not going to be the likely choice, just because Port Canaveral has a lot of issues in their own. I talk about this a lot in the podcast that we have here on the channel. If you don't know, or if you're new to the channel, we do have a podcast that we do typically every week, or at least we try every week, every other week or so. But nonetheless, Port Canaveral's biggest problem is that they are growing faster in business than they are growing faster physically. They are starting to have to turn away work in business because they don't have enough cruise terminals to match the demand of the cruise passengers and the cruise lines wanting to use them. That's a great problem to have, but it is a problem that is now going to start costing them money, of course, as they have to turn away business because they just don't have the space to put some of these ships. So Canaveral, although it is a great option, at least in my personal opinion, I don't know if that's going to be the likely option here for them. Fort Lauderdale is possible, as they could probably put her on a off-scheduled day or a not typically scheduled day. That way they can kind of avoid the winter seasons where the ships are very much active with them, as they usually will have 6, 7, 8 ship days in Fort Lauderdale. Or we could even see it all the way down in Miami. And who knows, we could even see them take over Terminal J. And this is, of course, just me thinking off the top of my head. This is not any sort of rumor or anything like that, but it is a possibility. Terminal J is the one that is on the south side of the island of where the Port of Miami sits. It is used, but it is not frequently used, and Fortuna could potentially go down that direction, and they could potentially take over that terminal. And that would be a great ship for them and a great spot for them. So Miami is a potential here. So that's kind of where we sit right now, is that there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of potential of where they could put the ship when it comes to its new home port. And of course, all of this, we're just going to have to wait and see, as I'm sure they're going to announce this pretty soon over the next several months, as we begin to learn more and more of what their plans are with the Costa Fortuna. So that's the big industry news of the day here for Margaritaville at Sea adding a third ship and their largest ship to their fleet here in probably late 2026, early 2027. What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comment section below. And like I mentioned earlier, be sure to stay tuned for our podcasts that we have every week or so here on the channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. They're on there. And of course, all of our weekly ship spotting videos. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Costa Fortuna joining the Margaritaville at Sea fleet. And have you ever sailed with them? And what are your thoughts? They've seen very mixed reviews, but it seems like Islander has been doing very, very well for them. Anyways, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.